What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. I'm Nathan, and on this planet we send it. Now what we're going to be sending today is a PC build that I have created for video editing my YouTube videos. Now, before we begin, I need to put out a little parental advisory. If someone is in the room and they use a Mac, you may want to have them step outside. And or if they're a Mac user and use maybe an iPhone, you may want to have them step outside. Because what they're going to see in this video might cause them to go out and spend a lot of money and put together or build it or buy their own PC. But if they're willing to accept that risk, then hey, let's go ahead and send it all together. Now, what this video is going to be is basically sort of in three parts. After this introduction, we're going to go ahead and build the PC, so you're going to kind of see what I was going through, some of the trials and tribulations with that. And then after that, we're going to go ahead and do two tests. For video editing, data transfer, and also video rendering is very time consuming, or can be, especially the video rendering. So what we're going to do is we're going to test both the data transfer and then also the video rendering. So without further ado, let's go ahead and send it. So the backbone of the system that I'm going to be using is this is Asus Motherboard. It is a tough gaming motherboard, the X570 Pro, as you can see. And although this is a gaming motherboard, I'm not really using it to game it out. I'm using it for the PCIe 4.0, and then although not necessarily displayed here, it's using the latest USB and Bluetooth technology for file transfer. So that's going to be critical when I'm downloading videos from my GoPro and also my phone. The operating system will reside on this 98 Pro. This is a 2 terabyte, as you can see, PCIe 4.0 M.2. I'm starting off with 64 gigabytes of RAM, but I do plan to, well, let me rephrase that. I will upgrade as necessary in the future, if necessary, but we'll see how this is doing. So when I was looking for the latency, I wasn't necessarily going for the best one. I was just going for one that seemed at least cost advantageous for what I was getting as far as the return on my investment. For the CPU, I am going with the 5000 series Ryzen 9 AMD processor, which will be air-cooled by this used Noctura fan that I got. It's actually a dual, well, you'll see it here in a second, but it's a dual fan setup. I've had very good success with them in the past with my AM3, so I figured I'd go ahead and stay with it. And again, like I said, I am not doing a gaming computer, so I'm not going to necessarily require water cooling, or at least I don't think I will, but I'm initially setting up for air cooling. And this will be set up all within a new case, the Enthoo Pro, the Fantex case, which came out of there and is right here. So what we're going to go ahead and do is I'm going to set you up on the tripod, and we're going to go ahead and open this up and then get ready to install the motherboard. So I prefer a full-size case just because it's so much easier to work with when installing the motherboard. So usually when not working with a full case, it's better to assemble some of the items on the motherboard outside of the case. But in a full case, you can just basically work all within it from the very start. So let's go ahead and put the motherboard in first. It took a little bit for me to be able to line up this input-output panel, but once I got it lined up, the screws and everything were easily able to mount in there. And it was actually pretty pleasant to see what Fantex had put together. This is a very nice screw and bolts kit here, plus with some extra goodies in there, and able to do anything that you want here. All right, so the next thing I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to put in the processor and then the memory. And real fast, I did want to mention, I had already read through, prior to doing this video, the entire user guide for both the motherboard and also the case, and basically deciding how I was going to set everything up. So that's highly recommended, is to make sure you read all the documentation before you begin. All right, let's go ahead and send it. Let's get the CPU and the memory on. All right, as I just mentioned, I went through all the directions on the motherboard and also the case. I also went through the fan, and I just realized I need to change the fan, change these out for the fan to fit on there correctly. So let me go ahead and figure out the orientation in which I'm going to do this, and then I'm going to have to take the motherboard back out, but we're going to go ahead and leave the CPU in there. So it's always a good idea to go ahead and double check your work and triple check your work, because I went back and I was reading the instructions to make sure I didn't forget anything, and I did forget something. I forgot to put the spacers for the CPU fan mount, so I'm going to go ahead and do that now. All right, so after doing a test fit of the fan on the CPU, I realized that where it says Tough Gaming right here is hitting this outer fan. So what I have to do is switch this over to this side. And in order to get the, in order to keep the cabling from basically rubbing on the CPU and going under, I'm going to have to rotate them. So what I'm going to do in order to reach the fan down there is go ahead and put on this adapter. So this Y adapter to be able to connect them both from going over the top. Let me give you a different perspective there. I had to go ahead and mount this fan right here a little bit higher than this one because of the memory module right there. I didn't want it necessarily resting directly on top of it, so I raised it up just a few little of these fins here on the side to get it up just a little bit higher. Now, as a matter of fact, I should probably come back here and double check around here to make sure that this isn't on anything in particular. I can't really see through the camera, so let me turn this off and double check. Alrighty, it is getting a little late. I'm gonna have to go put my son to sleep, and usually when I do that, I tend to fall asleep myself. So to recap before we get up in the morning and finish it, put in the M.2 hard drive, or the basically the main storage. Got the RAM in there, Got the fan in there after multiple trials and tribulations. Obviously, the motherboard is in there. So tomorrow what we're going to do is I'm going to gut my old GPU. Going to go ahead and install that, and the power supply unit. Going to go ahead and put that in there. And then again, any additional hard drives, we'll go ahead and put that in. And then once we get that together, it'll be time to turn it on and install the software. All right, I'll see you in the morning. All right, good morning. So it's actually about 6 in the morning. My family's not quite up yet. I'm going to go ahead and get started. I'll be giving you, in addition to this video, giving you some nice morning here as we get started here. And also, this is my old PC, which is now my parts PC. I'll be taking the power supply, we're crashing the power supply and the GPU from here and transferring it over. And then I have some Noctura fans that, as you can see, I'm a fan of, and you'll see even more so when I open this up, that they really work well and they're silent. So I'm a real fan of, haven't had to go to water cooling yet for the usages that I've been doing it, because mostly I don't do overclocking. But anyways, let's go ahead and send it. All right, got my old PC disassembled for where I want to get to and keep the possible parts. I'm not sure what I'm going to be doing with the case. I may just trash everything, so I'll take the fans off. Heck, I may even take the fans off just because they look about the size that'll fit on my current case. We shall see here in a second. But for now, I am going to stop the camera because I'm going to go and buy some compressed air. You can see here's my 1200 watt PSU. Will be plenty enough for my new PC, but I want to go get some compressed air because as I was taking things off, I should have known ahead of time this was going to be super hella dusty. So I want to make sure this is clean before I put it in. I've kind of wiped off the power supply on the outside, but even the power supply could use some cleaning too. So we're going to go ahead and stop for now. It's going to be a couple hours for me, but it's going to be almost instantaneous for you. All right, see you then. All right, the PC is together, and as promised, we're going to go ahead and run 2 tests. What I'm going to put on the screen right now is actually the data transfer test that I did from my phone to both the PC and also to the laptop. So what you're seeing the time on the laptop, that's actually how fast it took for the data transfer to the PC. And what you see on the PC is actually how long it took to do the data transfer to the laptop. Now, you can see it's not that big of a difference. So there's either a couple of things here that could be there. I thought, to be honest, it would go a lot faster than the PC. And this is where sort of I didn't manage my own expectations because I thought that maybe because I was using a straight up USB Type-C to Type-C connector on from the phone to my PC, and it just didn't. It was about the same. It was only about a minute less. And so figuring, you know what, maybe it was only my phone that maybe just has like a slow connection, you know, so I'll go ahead, and I also took some recordings from my GoPro. So I transferred those over, and you know what, although it wasn't nearly as big of data transfer, it was still very comparable. I think it was about within like 10, 15, maybe 20 seconds difference. I think it was like a little over 3 minutes and then like a little under 3 minutes. So really not that big of a deal. So for the video rendering, if you happen to have watched my previous video showing my family pull out a Jeep YJ out of the back of a box truck, that one file video is it's about 5.1 gig, and it was uncut, unedited. It was about 12.5 minutes. So I rendered both, just only the clip with no actual editing, just so you had the PC at just around 8.5 minutes, and the laptop was at almost 40 minutes, so just under 5 times as fast. And so that actually is what kind of blew me away. I was not expecting it to be that much faster. And I will say, I've been doing some of the other video editing since then, and even when I get to the time lapse, which usually turns my video rendering into like almost 2 hour, maybe around 2 hour, maybe a little over 2 hours. This thing is just blowing through it all, and I'm very happy with this PC. And for those who are sticking along with the video thus far, what I'm going to go ahead and do is throw in a little bonus clip of some of the fans that I added in after the original build a few days later when they came in. You can kind of see here, I'm using the fans up top to sort of siphon all the heat out and blow it out the top, and then I have some fans coming in on either side and then including the bottom, and inserting some nice cool air. So the intent is to have the fans on the top not only use the cool air that's being forced in, but also sort of have a vacuum to suck in the air from other locations, just to allow the more cool air to come in. And I've had zero issues when it's come to video rendering. It's been holding at a pretty nice and cool, right around 60 degrees Celsius. All right, that's going to go ahead and wrap up this video. I'm going to go ahead and try to get this out to you guys basically by tomorrow. And then I'm going to be doing a few more recordings. I got at least to do one more garden update before my trip. I'm going to basically do the recording, and then I know I just talked about how happy I am to do all this rendering on my PC, but I'm going to have to do that on my laptop because I'll be traveling. Oh well, it is what it is, and you just got to make do with what you got. And the laptop's been holding me this far, and it'll be no problem. So you'll have this by the time you see this video. You should be expecting the garden update out probably about the middle of next week. But anyways, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you on the next one.